There's an amazing passage of Scripture in the book of Job. You're going to have to help me, Shane. It won't pull it up. Here we go. Job made this statement, or it was made about Job, describing his life. It said, "Your words have upheld him that was falling, and your words have strengthened the feeble knees." Would anybody use that phraseology to describe you? They could say that about you. As you move through the dorm, as you interact with a roommate, as you walk on campus, as you walk through the commons and sit down and chat a while, and as you move through life at the end of your days, could they somehow chisel that on your headstone? Her words, his words, upheld those that were falling. They strengthened feeble knees. Words are powerful. Jesus said, "By your words you shall be justified, and by your words you'll be condemned." It was said of Jesus that never a man spake like this. It was his words. I remember the power of words just as a kid in grade school. Going home crying because somebody said something about me, and my mother quoted this little cute poem that never helped me one bit. Got any idea what it was? Let's say it together for old time's sake. "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." Unfortunately, that just ain't true. And I don't recall it ever helping my feelings. So, out of childhood bitterness, I rewrote that poem. "Sticks and stones can break my bones and make my body sore, but bruises heal and bones will mend, while words hurt o'er and o'er." Words affect us in many ways. Scientists tell us that if you put someone in a room and just start talking about age, growing old, arthritis, and all the other things, that the person in the room will begin to take on the characteristics of the elderly. If they're standing, they will stoop, their shoulders will do this. If they're walking, they slow down. But if you change the conversation and start talking about youth and life and happiness and loving kindness, all of a sudden you see signs of an improved mood. Depression leaves, anxiety lifts, something happens in the atmosphere. Every day, all across the world and all across this campus, people say the most ridiculous things to each other that bring on hurt, depression, and defeat. Can you imagine what would happen if you and I, as followers of Jesus Christ, started releasing the power and good in people's lives by saying kind things to one another? I just read recently, as I was contemplating dealing with a problem, I was reminded again and read it again somewhere that you have to say 4 good things for every one negative thing you want to say. So if you're going to correct or criticize or deal with a problem, you better have already put in the emotional bank of the person you're going to deal with 4 very good things. If you don't, you overdraw instantly and create tension. Most people go through their entire life never speaking words into another human being that come from deep within inside them and that build their character. I believe words are so powerful that you can classify them and put them into 3 basic categories. I believe there are words that heal. Here we go. I also believe there are words that build. And I believe there are words that transform. Let's talk about words that heal. I want to share something with you it's rather personal. Growing up as a a young teen and then a mid-teen and an older teen, my dad and I did not have a very good relationship. My dad was not one to speak kind words or to use the kind of language that could instill confidence or build anyone. I don't think he knew how. My dad lost his father when he was 16, and I look back on those years, and as I reflect, my dad failed a year in high school the year that his father died. He had to step up and take a lot of responsibility for the farm work and all that was going on in the life of his mother and his two younger siblings. It was close or right in the heart of the Depression, and times were very, very difficult. And that did something to my dad. My dad's way out was just hard work. To prove that he loved you, he just worked hard. And he could outwork any man I ever knew. I'm 55 years old, and when my dad was in his late 60s, early 70s, he could work circles around me. Strong, powerful, big guy. But he couldn't say words like, "I'm sorry," or "forgive me," or "I love you." They just somehow would not come out of his mouth. And during those years, there was cross currents in our lives, and we lived mostly in a state of confrontation rather than a state of reconciliation. But as I grew up, became a Christian, and grew older and matured and became wiser, I realized the problems, the brokenness in his own life that created that. And so about 5 or 6 years before my dad died, I wrote him a letter. And I gave it to him, and I told him what a wonderful father he had been, and that I understood, and how he had provided for all of our needs and had given us so much. And I was so thankful and so grateful, and I dearly loved him. My dad held that letter and kept it in his Bible like it was sacred scripture itself. When he died, it was still in his Bible. Words have power, and they can reach into a person's life for good or for bad. Words like, "You're my brother, and I love you." On this campus, we have students from about 16 different countries, a variety of races and ethnic backgrounds. I never cease to be amazed how difficult it is for the children of this world to reach across racial and ethnic lines and shake hands and really mean it. I grew up in the Deep South. I was born in 1956. Our local Dairy Queen had a sign out front, or two signs actually. It had one window here, it said whites only, and another window over here, and it said blacks. There were two water fountains. In our local restaurant, there was a glass cigar case that the cash register sat on top of. Had a big bold sign on the glass. Any money spent here by a black will be contributed to the KKK. The drugstore that I worked in, I was 17 years old. And Mrs. Rogan would not serve a black person at the soda fountain. They could stand at the end of the soda fountain and buy something, but they couldn't go to the soda fountain. I've watched her many times get in their face and tell them we don't serve that here. I can't tell you how tragic and awful and stupid and ignorant and wicked and sinful that is. And I've traveled a lot, lived a lot in the North, and traveled a lot in the North, and I've met a whole lot of Northerners who love to take a shot at a Southerner because of some of those memories. But is always amazed that the self-righteous people who would do that were guilty of the same thing. And then I started traveling from country to country, Asia, Africa, Europe. You know what I found out? I found out every culture has got this pecking order. And there's always somebody underfoot. And they're always looking down their nose and making racial jokes about somebody somewhere. And sadly, my travels have been mostly among church people. Sometimes I think they know all the jokes. You think society outgrows that. I know I did. You think people stop that. Eventually they grow up, and by the grace of God, they don't do that anymore. But I was just reminded recently by someone on our campus that those things still happen here, right here. I didn't believe it. I said, couldn't be true. Surely there's nobody here like that. And then I had to stop and think that the world is still filled with ignorance and so forth. There's still a lot of people who just don't get it. Eating with the different states was very interesting. There's nobody quite like our kids from Kentucky. I love Kentucky. They take some of the pressure off Alabama. Beautiful rolling hills. I love that slow southern drawl. I love it. It's beautiful. But listening to our students from Kentucky, you would be surprised how many of them said, I get tired of hearing Kentucky jokes. Snaggletooth women and hillbillies and corncob pipes and all the other stereotypes. Oh, that's funny. Ha, ha, ha. No, that's stupid. It's unkind and it's inconsiderate. I'll never forget when I was traveling in missions, I had to hold a lot of revivals and camps to make ends meet, and our boys were small. Most of the camp meetings are in the north, across the Bible Belt, Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania. I'll never forget being in camp meetings and with our boys and sitting at the evangelist table and have a fellow coworker or his wife or their kids look across the table to my boys and say that again. They'd look at them like, what? Oh, just say anything. And here these 8, 9, 10-year-old boys didn't know what are you talking about? Oh, say this little phrase, and okay, and they would say it, and then the people asking it just burst out laughing. Oh, you sound so funny with that southern accent. I didn't know the world had people that stupid. I didn't. I honestly didn't. But you know what? They're there. With their Pollock jokes, with their hillbilly jokes, with their black jokes, with their Chinese jokes, with their Korean jokes, with their Asian jokes, with their, I guess if you're in Russia, it's your Chechen jokes. A student shared recently that in all the public schools he'd ever been in, he'd never met as much racism as he met here. I know that's what I thought of it. My eyes popped right out of my head. Right out of my head. They fell right out of my head. Fortunately, I got them back. I was so distressed about it, I talked to my D group. When I really get distressed about something, my D group brings me back down to earth. They help me out. They give me some balance. And they said, Brother Avery, we don't think people here are just mean, nasty, ugly, racist. We just think there's a lot of ignorance. Just dumb stuff. You know, I don't know where to classify it, where to categorize it, where to put it. But let me tell you something, students, from the bottom of my heart. If you think racial jokes about anybody, if you think those kind of things, jokes that pick on retarded people or stuttering people or short people or whatever kind of people, you say, oh, Brother Avery, you're just being politically correct. No, I'm not. I'm being biblically correct. You don't go around making fun of other human beings who are made in the image of God. You don't do that. You're either arrogant or you're stupid. Which one? You want to vote? All in favor of arrogance, say aye. All in favor of stupid, say aye. Well, we're just going to... You mean there's a third choice? Give it to me. What is it? Oh, it's both. Both. That's it. They're like the guy that the pastor told me about one time. He said, I had a layman come in and said, Preacher, they're just ignorant with a capital E. And I've learned that's the worst kind of ignorance there is. Do I need to slow down and re-say this again, or did you get it? Everybody that got it raised their hand. Okay, if you didn't raise your hand, stay after chapel. There are words that heal. There are words that build. People long to hear a good word. God has blessed me to let me work with young people here for almost 17 years and away from here for 15 years. And I've never met a young person yet who didn't want someone to know his name and call his name. I've never met a young person yet who didn't appreciate a compliment, a kind word. But what I have found is a lot of people are so used to the other, they don't know how to take a compliment. You try to compliment them and they start demeaning themselves. Don't demean yourself when somebody gives you a compliment. Just square your shoulders and say thank you. Now, you don't have to say thank you, I deserve that. Just say thank you. Deep within the heart of every person, there's this longing for approval. People search for it their whole lives. If you don't get it from your parents, your spouse, your friends, you're going to search until you get it from somewhere. It never goes away. I don't care how old you get. I'm trying to figure out who may be the oldest person here in chapel today. For a moment, I had this terrible feeling it could be me. But fortunately, it's not. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown is our patriarch this morning. And let's ask him, let's put him on the spot. Let's do a quick interview. Does the need for affirmation ever leave us? Do you appreciate kind words and kind remarks? And Do you need it? In unison, let's join Andrew. We love you, Dr. Brown. Can you imagine what would do to this campus if every class was started by, we love you, Dr. Brown? We love you, Dr. Phil. We love you, Mr. Prophet. We love you, Mr. Witt. We love you, Dr. Pope. Wherever she went. Pope. We love you, Dr. David. Could you imagine the electricity that would charge the atmosphere? You say, oh, that's crazy. Try it. No, not every class period. It happens all your life. When you're a kid, you run to your dad and say, Daddy, look what I've done. Look what I've made. It doesn't stop. My boys are both grown. They're grown. They're out of the house. But now it's, hey, Dad, come over and see our new house. Come over and see our car, the new baby. This is what we bought. I've got to... Not the baby. Oh, words are a terrible thing. You need affirmation. And if you pronounce approval, they beam with confidence. Guys, when your wife buys a new dress and she sashays around in front of you and says, what do you think about my new dress? I don't do that with very much grace, but something like that. You better say, darling, you're beautiful. That, even if it looks like a bag of rags, you better say, sweetheart, you're gorgeous. You'd look good in anything. They want confidence. Women need security that we can build into them. Words are important. I met a guy that was in his 20s. He came through my church one Sunday, and I knew him from growing up, and I had known about him. And he was standing there talking to me. He was single, never married, very unassuming, never had done much in life. But he said, I knew your father-in-law, Reverend Vernon. I said, oh. He said, he was a very good man. I said, oh. Of course, I knew that, but I thought, well, why was he saying that? And this guy, almost 30 years old, he said, when I was just a small boy, 8 or 9, 10 years old, he said, I was the kind of kid everybody could look through and never see. Nobody ever paid any attention to, never said anything to me. He said, but Reverend Vernon always made a special effort to speak to me. And he said one day when he spoke to me, he came over to me and he put his hand on top of my head. And he said, Don, you're going to grow up and amount to something and be a blessing for the Lord. And that 30-year-old man looked at me and said, I can still feel his hand on top of my head. Now, most of you don't know who that is, okay? If you were a little older, you would know that's Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was sort of the sex kitten of the 60s. Sensual, lewd. She was on calendars and garages. She had an affair with President John Kennedy. She was the sex idol. You always see pictures of her something like this. That's the most decent I could find. Smiling, blonde hair blowing. But I never knew the story behind Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe never had a home of her own. She was kicked around from foster home to foster home, from house to house. Many years later, in an interview, someone asked Marilyn Monroe this question: was there ever a time in your life as you passed from family to family when you felt loved? She responded, once. When I was 7 or 8, the woman I lived with was putting on her makeup and I was watching. She was in a happy mood, so she reached over, she patted my cheeks with her rouge puff. And then Marilyn began to weep and said, for that moment, I felt loved. It's the only time in her life she felt loved. When people don't get words of affirmation, they will try to earn them. They will search for them. They will withdraw into isolation and loneliness. They will sell their body in some attempt to have someone touch them or like them. Or they will strike out in anger. There are words that build, and you can use those words every day about someone else. And then there are words that transform. I don't know of a more transforming language than I love you. I try to use that phrase as much as I can in appropriate ways. We live in such a scandalous society. It's so sensual, so twisted, so warped. Do you have to actually be careful? But that's a word that everyone here needs to hear. You guys need to hear it. Sit up with it. Well, at least Andrew's with it. He understands it. All of you do. There's a board member that calls me every week, and he never gets off the phone without saying, I love you. Do you know how awkward that is between two old guys? I don't care how awkward it is. I'm going to keep saying it. I try to soup it up a little bit, like, hey, yeah, I love you, man. That sounds a little bit more macho or something. Love you, man. I was holding a revival meeting in the home of, you guys would know him. Many of you would know him. He was almost 80 at the time. After the morning service, we were at his house for dinner, for lunch, and we were on the patio waiting for lunch. And he sat down and he began to talk about his childhood and just burst out crying and said this. This guy's a successful businessman. He's preached on unbelievably number of platforms. Great preacher, great success. He looked at me and he said, Brother Avery, my father never told me he loved me. And just burst out in tears. Almost 80 years old. Dad's been dead 50 years. Those words are words that everybody needs to hear, and they can transform you if you hear them. Kathy walked up to the door of a shelter in New York. She's a homeless girl, and she had an aluminum paint can in her hand. She walks into the shelter, and Sister Mary greets her, and they offer her a place to stay, food to eat, clothes to wear, but she holds on to that can. They suggest that she take a shower, and she willingly does. She had not had a hot shower in months. And so she takes a hot shower, but the paint can stays right outside the shower. So they give her new clothes. She puts those on. She goes to her room, sits on her little bunk, and holds the paint can. Every meal she eats, the paint can sits right by her plate. No one dare talk to her about the can. They could tell there was something special about it, and she wasn't going there. Finally, the director, Sister Mary, said to her one day, Kathy, I'd like to have lunch with you today. And she said, that'd be fine, sister. And they sat down and began to eat, and she said, you know, Kathy, that's a very nice can. Is it special to you? And Kathy looked at Sister Mary and said, "Oh, yes, sister. That's my mother." And the story unfolds that when Kathy was born, her mother, a drug addict, threw Kathy in the dumpster in New York the day after her birth. They did the research in the papers and found out the day after Kathy was born, a female child, was found in a dumpster in New York. It was in the paper. Kathy unfolds the story. Grew up in foster homes, kicked about from here to there, abused, finally on the street. And she said, "Sister, I wanted to meet my mother, and I started looking for her." And said, "I finally found her, sister. I went to the house where they said she lived, and the people there told me that she was in the hospital. I went to the hospital, and they told me that my mother was dying from AIDS. But I got to her bedside. 24 hours before she died, I got to her bedside. And sister, my mother told me she loved me." They gave Kathy's mother's ashes to Kathy, and she and that can are never far apart. I'm sorry that I'm over, but we're going to watch a little video, just a short clip. I want you to see this. A retarded boy lives on the streets of Brooklyn in a box. Here's what he wants.
Yeah. You like tuna? Today's my birthday, Thomas. Don't you know? Yeah, my birthday. And you're invited to my party. I have cake and candles. And you're my present. And I get to make a wish. Don't you know? Yeah. But I have to blow out all the candles, or it won't come true. Yeah. So, here I go. You're not supposed to tell your wish, but you can hear. Because I think that only means people. And you're not people. You're a cat. So, I wish someone would love me.
That little boy expresses the heart cry of every person in this chapel and millions of people that need ministered to somewhere. And the secret to transform so many lives is loving. Loving one another from the high school all the way across to the faculty side. Those words have power. And you have words that you can speak to someone else and build them up. Let's be what Job was, who caused men to stand on their feet. Let's stand up.
We're glad you joined us. God's Bible School and College prepares students for lives of ministry wherever God calls them. This content is possible because of the generous support of friends like you. To support GBSC, visit giving.gbs.edu. Thank you.